From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure, life itself. And hey, everybody, we're live here on a Monday. You might be listening later. It's our Star Wars news show. We will be talking all about the publishing panel, announcements and reveals and confirmations from New York Comic-Con. We'll have some this day in history, and I'll be taking your questions here. I apologize for I'm here alone. It's a nightmare episode for some of you, but I'm here. Joseph is so close to the finish line. His film premieres next week in Minneapolis. I hope anyone who can get there, who's within reach, has picked up some tickets and is going to head over there to the theater to see the big premiere. He's got some great stuff planned to make it a memorable evening. Jennifer Landa's supposed to be here today. She sends her regards. Last minute life needs came on up, so you're stuck with me, my friends, as we talk a little Star Wars news. As David Mackay says, this is where the fun begins indeed. This is how we're going to go today. I'll be here for as long as my soul allows me here in the next hour. And I want to take your questions. That's right. You know, this is ForceCenter's 10th year, our 11th year of broadcasting because of how seasons work, but our 10th year. In fact, this is the month in October of 2015 that we launched. ForceCenter was always the same. The soul has always been the same, but it was slightly different. We kind of each were working on our own shows, and the idea was we'd have an Avengers meetup every week or two with a ForceCenter main show. So Joseph was going to launch Databank Brawl. Jen was working on Jedi Beat, what kind of became Happy Beeps. And I had carried over a monologue show for my own podcast feed, the Napzok Network, called Spotlight Star Wars, because I had intended to start a series called Spotlight Game of Thrones, Spotlight Star Wars, Spotlight Food. I don't know. And that just kind of carried over, and it was a lot of fun. But then what happened, we just kind of felt the shift. We felt the need, and we broadcast regularly with the main show. And here we are 10 years later. But today's it feels like a little bit of a flashback, even though I've been doing the Friday live shows, and we'll do that again this week, the ForceCenter Talkback shows, name pending. And we'll take your calls on Friday, get you on the show, your shining faces on here for all the world to see. But this kind of feels like a little bit of a throwback. Just me and a microphone. It is absolutely dangerous. I do want to take your questions via a post form. So if you're watching and have a ask me anything about Star Wars kind of question, I'll endeavor to answer it today. My buzzword of the month has been endeavor. I love the word endeavor. Box Office Jack is here. Serenity Jane, Juan Truth, Jeannie from Tahini, Gaz Nottingham already with a great question that I'm going to set aside here. That is something from StreamYard. So let's get in a little bit into some Star Wars news. New York Comic-Con wrapping up over the weekend. New York Comic-Con, historically, do not have the updated numbers, but historically it is actually bigger in terms of attendees than San Diego Comic-Con. I've only been there once, way back in 2015. Crazy, 10 years ago this month, I do believe. And it was a lot of fun. The Javits Center, it is big, but my biggest complaint is the moment you cross the street, you're in New York, which is fun. I enjoy being in New York, enjoy hanging out with all the New Yorkers there, but in the Bodega Cats. But once you leave the convention grounds, the convention's kind of over, which is not the case in San Diego. The entire city is the con. The whole city is the con, says Rick Ollier. But New York Comic-Con is always just chock full of Star Wars publishing announcements. I think that's a lot to do with the fact that Del Rey is a little bit, they're based in New York mostly. Their main office is there, so it's just down the street. And you can get all the authors out, especially authors from around the world. A little easier to fly into New York City. Some big announcements, and I am going to run through them here, especially for book fans and art of fans, of which I am. Some comic news as well. I think the headline coming out of New York is the announcement of the book Star Wars Legacy by Madeleine Roux. It is set between episodes 8 and 9. Features Leia and Rey on a quest to mend the fabled Skywalker lightsaber. There is an interview on StarWars.com with Madeleine. I highly recommend you check it out. And I want to absolutely be transparent here. I'm friends with Madeleine, old friends with Madeleine. In fact, my first Star Wars celebration, I drove to it with Madeline, and she wrote one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars literature in the first From a Certain Point of View book. I've mentioned it many times. I wrote about it in my own book, Star Wars, Why We Love Star Wars. What is the name of my book? And it is Eclipse, which is the final moments of Bail and Breha Organa. And it's still one absolutely to this day, 10 years or so on, absolutely my favorite, one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars writing. And I even pulled some photos. There's me. On the right, you got Madeline dressed as Daenerys Targaryen's Sith version. And then you got 2017 in Orlando, dressed as kind of a Bright Tree Village Leia, and then a picture down below of the old Jedi Alliance days. This is I picked this down there in the corner. If you're on the audio version, head on over to about 6.5 minutes. It's an old Jedi Alliance photo with Roger Craig Smith, co-host, my wonderful old pal Maude Garrett, and me and Madeline. Madeline wrote a piece of Star Wars kind of fan fiction that day, and we brought her in. We had Roger Craig Smith, voiceover actor extraordinaire, read that piece, and it was she was moved by that moment, and so she's always been one of my favorite people, and I've always wanted her to get a book, and I think she's perfect for this book. And check out that interview on StarWars.com because she's a lifelong Leia fan, that late millennial Gen X kind of generation. That kind of makes sense. But Leia has meant so much to her over the years, and she also brought, I think, such wonderful warmth and depth to Breha and that short story, and kind of worked with Claudia Gray on it. If I recall some of the interviews of Claudia's Princess Leia of Alderaan book, and just kind of connected some of the dots. So she's so good at bringing depth to an established character like Leia and an established character like Rey. And in the interview, I think she touches on some truths where between 8 and 9, I think because, and she doesn't say this in the interview, but because of the realities of what happens, the passing of Carrie Fisher, you take this big swing, which worked for some, which kind of worked for some, and for me generally worked, which is you take the footage of Carrie Fisher as Leia, mostly from episode 7, you repurpose it as best you can, and you try to explore the relationship between Leia and Rey at that time, master and apprentice, Jedi master, Jedi Padawan in a way. But I think you're limited by the realities, and it can only go so deep. And Daisy Ridley can only do, and I think did wonderful things with those scenes that she had, but I think it could only go so far. And in her interview, and I'm paraphrasing some of it here, Madeline really addresses that of like, this is a chance to add a lot of depth. This is a chance to go into the story of Rey and who becomes Rey Skywalker, but addresses the relationship with Leia. We have this time frame between 8 and 9, but there's fertile ground to get to where we're at. They love each other. There's a connection. There's a trust. There's doubt in Rey, but Leia's got faith in her. There's all that stuff we see, and it's kind of the finish line. But along the way, there's fertile ground, like I said, to explore these characters. Particularly the relationship where, at the end of 8, we got an uplifting moment. You have everything you need. It's a great T-shirt moment. I believe in that moment. I sometimes need that in my own life. That's why I'm still listening to Leia after all these years. You have everything you need, but the lightsaber's broken. The Skywalker blade is broken. Rey has these newfound burdens and these new, who am I? And can those powers hurt those around me? And that's kind of where we get to. There is the Resistance Reborn book that's out there that I enjoy just mostly because Carlos Reichen is brought back into the story. We love General Reichen. But I really like what Madeline was talking about. With this book, you can explore that there's also some built-in tension in this moment here. That Leia and Rey haven't spent at this point a ton of time together, right? They're on Dakar. They have the meetup. Leia puts on the wonderful, elegant blue dress, says, "May the Force be with you. Go get my brother." And Last Jedi picks up after there, for better or worse. And then the movie kind of ends. It's one of those like Star Wars timelines. It's like, does New Hope take 4 days? Does Empire Strikes Back take 2 weeks? I love kind of the timelines in Star Wars that you can play with, but we're fast. Their relationship is going fast, and we haven't spent the time with them. This book allows us to spend some time. And Madeline was talking, and again, I'm paraphrasing, in one of the most interesting things is at that moment, at the end of Last Jedi, this is all, you have everything you need. Rey has just had all of this stuff going on with Leia's son and who he is and his own legacy. Rey has just been given what she believes is most of the information of her own identity and her search there. We know more is to come, and commentary on that decision in episode 9 from behind the scenes or outside of the production, looking in, putting that aside, whether you like it or not, in story, which is where I generally like to deal with. Rey is now wrestling with this. I thought I was one thing, or I wanted one answer. I didn't get it. What am I now? Who am I? And can that hurt? Can that be used for good? But also this lady's now all I got. Han's gone. I kind of liked Han. I went to go get Master Luke. He's gone. And I got Leia, who I like and I trust, but I don't know. And her son kind of tried to kill me / capture me, torture me, maybe seduce me to the dark side, maybe just seduce me. There's a lot going on. And I think that's a great jumping off point, and I'm looking forward to this story, looking forward to this book. As Logan says, more Rey, please. And I think developing even more of the emotional background of that character as we move towards what we still hope around these parts is a new movie based around Rey and the Jedi Order. I absolutely... So I'm excited about this book. I'm excited about sequel era storytelling. And I'm also, like I said, personally, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to hold my feelings back. Love Madeleine Rue. She's such a talented author. She has just absolutely a love for Star Wars and Leia. And I've been waiting for this opportunity. Her and I have communicated, and when the time is right, and when we can cross all those hurdles and T's and I's and all that stuff, Madeleine wants to come on the show and hang out and talk about what she has put out in the book. So the book does not come out for a bit. Let me double check on that here. July 28th, 2026. So first of all, let's all get to 2026, and then let's get to that book there. So that's the first book out of the way. If you have any questions, comments about that, post it here. If you're just joining or listening, it's me, Ken Napzok, solo here today. So I want to take your questions. Jennifer and Joseph send their regards. Also announced is that Ashley Poston is writing the first official, all caps, official Star Wars romance novel called Star Wars Eyes Like Stars. First of all, stop there. That's a perfect title. It's a perfect title. This makes me, all of us should think of Claudia Gray's Lost Stars, the first big, great Star Wars book from 10 years ago. And still one of my favorites. Lost Stars, perfect title. Eyes Like Stars, even more levels of perfection attained there. It is set a year and a half before episode 7. It is also with brand new characters. You will have the First Order in there. And this is, there were some comments from Michael Siglain about, them getting into this kind of what I'm calling subgenre, with kind of Star Wars fantasy sci-fi being the main genre here, described as a charming young adult novel. So we do want our young adult novels to be charming, apparently, there. So Molly Davin's here to chat, says, really looking forward to reading that one there. I don't know if it's going to be high on my to-read list, but I really want this to work. I think back in the day, we would have read every page and reviewed it. I don't know. We'll see where my life is when it was released in summer of 2026. If I only got time for one book, I'm going to be honest, I'm reading Madeleine Rue's Legacy. However, love this idea. We've talked often here on the show. We've talked often here on ForceCenter over the years of Star Wars and, like I said, those sub-genres. Horror always comes to mind. Thriller, political thriller, Andor kind of fills that void in a lot of way. I think... Acolyte kind of gets into it, mystery as promised. I'm not going to call it Star Wars horror, but it has those moments, as does The Mandalorian, with ice spiders or anything that Grogu's about to eat and then be chased by is its own level of Star Wars horror. But the idea that they, as Star Wars storytellers in the book medium, are like, let's have some genre fun. Let's absolutely lean into it. I think that's a good idea. They describe this as the first official Star Wars romance novel, but that to me is a nod to Lost Stars, which captivated so many people and was, at its heart, a romance novel. And I think this is a great idea. And will it translate to the screen? Not necessarily. I think these are separate tracks. I think these, you know, you got publishing, you got the things going on in comics, you got animation, you got TV, you got movies. Those are always going to have some dividing lines between them, but all working under the same house. If something like this captivates an audience, much like Claudia Gray's Lost Stars, here we are 10 years later. And when I get that question of, Ken, would you like to see a Star Wars book or comic adapted into an animated series or some sort of live action property, I still answer Leia, Princess of Alderaan and Lost Stars. I still go to those things. I even after, you know, over 10 years, I think, in the case of Lost Stars. So I think that book worked for a reason, and a lot of it was the sweeping romance. I'm talking about Lost Stars. And I agree with Molly Damon here. I mean, it's quite frankly, it's rare when I agree with Molly Damon. I'm kidding. I pretty much always agree with Molly Damon. And you all should too. The sequel trilogy has so few instances of, quote, romance, so exciting to get a new relationship to hopefully root for. Yeah, I'd like it. I'd like the relationship to be realistic. I'd like to have some complications. I don't want it to be where I'm like, ooh, I don't know. He seems kind of bad. And speaking of that, I do want to highlight a couple weeks ago, Grace Cosmeyer, comedian from LA out here, a friend of mine, came on ForceCenter. We had I thought, one of my favorite discussions of recent times with romance. So please check out the Romance is Why We Love Star Wars episode, whether it's on the podcast feed or in the video feed. And Grace had a lot of insightful things to say about Rey and Kylo and Reylo and just what romance can mean to Star Wars. It is not just a little ingredient that kind of, flavors up the Star Wars stew. It is a key building block for characters. And I do think, and I'm someone now, as we are 6 years removed from 7, 8, and 9, would have wanted and would not have minded a little more explicit romance, even though, as I've discussed, I'm glad that the trope could be smashed a little, that, hey, you got this character, Rey, she needs to have someone to fall in love with. I'm glad that trope was broken, but you can learn so much from people in burgeoning relationships there. Serenity Jane says, Lost Stars is so great, big shoes to fill. Yes, absolutely. Dr. Professor says, I thought Cyril's mom covered Star Wars horror. You ain't wrong. Edie Karn, one of the greatest characters of all time. Going back to Star Wars Legacy, Gaz Nottingham says, so good to see sequel era Star Wars popping up here and there. Ray training with Leia is something that was limited in Rise of Skywalker due to minimal footage available for Carrie. Getting a whole book is awesome. And yeah, that's where I like to live. That's where I like to deal. I understand the need to discuss the bigger business and the realities of filmmaking. There's this absolute tragedy in us losing Carrie Fisher, both as just a human being on this planet, as a mother, as someone's sibling, as a dog mom. That was just tragic all the way around. There were so many lessons to still learn from Carrie Fisher. Luckily, we still have a lot of the lessons out there for us to take from and grow and get better with. But I think it's just a reality of Episode 9. No matter who was going to do it, they made that decision. And I think sometimes you got to stand by the decisions, and they did, and I stand by it as a fan, but I want more, and we get to explore that here. So, yeah, there we go. JMB says, usually not much of a romance person in books, series, or movies, but I can take it or leave it if they have it in the thing I watch, unless it's poorly done. Also, happy for those who do enjoy it. There you go. So, JMB's like, love? Nah. I'm kidding, Vulcan nerd. All right, let's continue with the look at some of the other publishing announcements. Really excited for the Art of the Mandalorian and Grogu by friend of the show, Phil Shostak. This will also include art from Mando Season 3 and the Book of Boba Fett. I love that. I'm also disappointed. I get it. I have to acknowledge the truth. I get that Book of Boba Fett remains one of the least popular Star Wars properties. And I actually understand, as I've said many, many, many times before, I understand why. But I love that wonky, weird, wonderful Star Wars story, and I do want to know more about the process and the production and the creativity that went into making it. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm bummed we didn't get kind of its own thing. That includes physical media release, right? Unless they fix that, and I can't remember. But I love that series. So many valuable personal lessons for me in that series, things that I really took to heart in my own life. and my own journey. So I love Book of Boba Fett. Excited to learn more. Mando Season 3, that makes a lot of sense. Put it in here. Phil's books and the team he leads are just so wonderful. And even as I currently in my own life kind of prepare to maybe move and transition my living arrangement in my own life, and I'm looking at Star Wars things I have to get rid of, a lot of the Star Wars books, things I maybe won't read again, including some supplemental material kind of books. I'm clutching my Art of Star Wars books. I'm clutching all those books you put on a coffee table and just go, look at that, huh? Star Wars fan. Me, that book. That book represents my love for this property, and excited for more of this. And that includes the Star Wars The Mandalorian Visual Guide by Pablo Hidalgo, which will be out April 2026, and The Art of Star Wars Andor coming in May. Excited for all this as well. And in the Mandalorian Visual Guide, I think they were teasing a little bit of some insights into the Mandalorian and Grogu. We're getting there, kids. We're absolutely getting there. We're coming down to it. The return to Star Wars theaters will be here sooner than you know, which I don't need. I don't like time slipping by so fast. By the time I will be 50 when that movie comes out, which is weird because about 12 years ago, I was having a conversation with my buddy Scott Mance. And I was just thinking of like, I got to figure out some things to do in my life. He's like, why? You're having fun talking Star Wars. I go, Scott, I can't be talking about Star Wars on a podcast at 50. It was about 12 years ago. But he looks at me and he goes, why not? I thought, all right, I guess we'll see. Well, we're going to see, because when The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out and we dive into our big review, I'll be 50, kids. And I feel 14. All right, so if you love the Art of books and anything you're looking to expect from those books or why you like them, I think the stories, the production lore, the making of lore and knowledge helps fuel our love of Star Wars and has from the beginning. Much like Star Wars action figures helped fuel the toy industry and a big boom, for better or worse. But it helped grow our love of Star Wars over the years, which is why it's kind of a shame that it's changed, but you can't go back. And also very hard to get toys right now when the prices are through the roof, thanks to the false prophet president's tariffs. That's another conversation for another time, but it's sad to see what's happening to the toy industry, specifically the Star Wars toy industry. But I get it. Things change. Kids are going to be on their screens, and I'm not going to sound like an old guy. In my day, we bought ourselves a Ponda Baba. We called him Walrus Man at the time. But Star Wars fueled the love of toys. Star Wars fueled the love of the magic of movie making. And all those kind of magazines and books that said, here's what went into the decisions and here's what went into making them, which were even as depth as they are now. The Paul Duncan books are just some of my favorite pieces, and we're still learning things about the making of 4, 5, and 6. But it's a tradition, and these Art of books really, 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 really scratch the itch. Brady points out Grogu is also 50. Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Me and Grogu. just some old dudes trying to live. If you're just tuning in, it's me today, Ken Napzok, talking some Star Wars news. We got some comics. We got some This Day in Star Wars history. And I want to answer some of your questions. I'm not forcing anyone to super chat, but because I'm working alone today, I'm going to scroll up and see some of the comments. But if you want to get my attention, that's an easy way to do it. But I want to answer your questions in the time we have here today. LQ says, just a baby. Me and Grogu, just a baby. And I eat eggs the same way. Rona checking in, #live. Joseph's out today. Jennifer's out today. Joseph is probably going to be out for the next 2 weeks. This is it. This is crunch time. He has touched the finish line of Dead Media. And I am really going to suggest if you can get a ticket and you're local enough to Minneapolis up there, get out to the event, support, see it. This is just a momentous occasion. Joseph set out to do this 2 years ago, and the heavy lifting has been done by him, and it's taken a little bit of a psychological toll. We've got to prop him up these days, but he's so close to this wonderful achievement. So if you can get there and you can support him, please do. Jennifer Landa says sends her regards as well, which sounds like a threat if you're a Game of Thrones fan. It is. Jennifer Landa sends her regards. But she had to handle some stuff today. Life got in the way. But she's going to be back this week. We're going to try to... We're trying to find the right way to sell. We're all so busy. We're trying to find the right way to celebrate our 10th anniversary of ForceCenter being a thing. So Jennifer and I are going to sit down, maybe have a short conversation. I want to talk about Jennifer's perspective of joining the show and meeting me on Jedi Alliance and moving on over here. So that's going to be fun. But I want to ask you all here, and you could maybe go into our Discord and post here, or you can leave comments. What do you want to know? What do you want to say or celebrate about ForceCenter hitting 10 years of broadcasting, 11 seasons as we head into our 12th season and 11th year of existing? What kind of stories do you want to know? What kind of juicy behind the scenes, how did this thing get established stories do you want to know? I'll answer all. We'll answer them this month. Hey, here's Phil. You rang. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, Phil. I was so bummed. First of all, Phil, I was at the world premiere of Spinal Tap 2, and I was so thrilled to almost meet you. I almost went up to Christopher Guest because he was about 2 feet from me. I had to push past Jamie Lee Curtis, and I was going to go up to Christopher Guest and be like, I love your Art of Star Wars books. But I caught myself and realized that's not you. I wish I was in London. I really wanted to meet Phil. We've never had a chance to shake hands, but I really mean it. Phil's Art of Books and the team, the artists, are just continue to remain some of my favorite pieces of Star Wars that will stand the test of time. It's just a testament to the magic of Star Wars there. So, Phil, thanks again for listening. Serena Jane says, ForceCenter present, your show for the Friday Talkback. What is that? Molly Damon says, Phil, so excited for the Art of Andor and Mando. Yeah, I can't wait for that. Okay. Let's catch up with Star Wars news here. I needed a breath. In the comics, on the comic side, we've got a lot of things going on there. I won't dive into them. If you want a little bit more detailed description of the comics Star Wars news announcements at New York Comic Con, go ahead and head over to our friends Molly and Alex Damon, Star Wars Explained. You probably know them. There's probably less than a 1% chance that you're a longtime ForceCenter fan and friend and haven't also taken a dive in the waters of Star Wars Explained. But if you haven't, it is my favorite Saturday morning tradition. I fire up a video game, get some breakfast, and I just listen to Alex and Molly break down the week in Star Wars news. And they take a deeper look here at the Star Wars comic announcements, including the manga, Star Wars Visions. They've got a manga coming out, and I continue to love what they're doing with the Visions. I've always been honest. I don't watch it as much as others and don't take the deep dive as much of others, but I still so love that it exists, and it is a testament to the inspiration that Star Wars is. So check out that. Dark Horse Comics will give us more High Republic, so yay for High Republic fans, of which I count myself, even though I got so far behind on the books and comics that I'm disappointed in myself as a human being. But the Dark Horse Comics, folks, which is it's great that Dark Horse has gotten back into the Star Wars game over the last couple of years. They got the High Republic Adventures Pathfinder series coming out. And then the main event. This I will talk more about. This I will dive into because this is amazing. Amazing. There was a lot of comic announcements. Again, for the full list, I'm putting a lot of pressure on Alex and Molly's video from last week, but go check out the video. I feel you got Star Wars Legacy by my friend Madeline Rue. I think that's the number one story of the week. But I think right there, 1B, and maybe even a little bit 1A from a certain point of view, is the announcement that there's a one-shot issue, Jar Jar Binks #1, featuring a venture, a crossover adventure, if you will, of Kelloran Beq and Jar Jar Binks. It was co-written by Ahmed Best. I cannot stress enough how much I love this news. Jar Jar Binks lives. Continues to live in my heart as a fan. He continues to live in the hearts of so many. Check out our Jar Jar Binks is Why We Love Star Wars episode here with Scotty and Jerry from the Bombad cast, because the love of Jar Jar is deep. And I often joke about nearly getting into bar fights with people that I love and respect. Jar Jar insults in 2025 are the thing that makes me curl up my fists more than almost anything else. I get it. I get it. I was there in 1999. I heard him say "squeeze me," and I didn't like it either. But my love of Jar Jar is so organic, is so real, and is so deep. My respect for Ahmed Best has always been there, but now it continues to grow. The fact that Ahmed owns these two characters in a way, in the sense of they are of him. And after years of having to turn around, maybe turn his back in general on Jar Jar and the fandom, even at a high cost, at a nearly tragic cost to his life. The fact that here we are, following Chicago, where he returns to the fold, even though he'd already voiced Jar Jar again and already kind of, I think, embraced a lot of things about it. But to return in a larger way at Star Wars Celebration Chicago, and then to show up as Kelloran Beq, and to show up then as Kelloran Beq in The Mandalorian Season 3, still one of my favorite moments as a fan, as nearly 50 years as a fan. That moment, that door opening up, and me just standing up and going, oh my God, they did it. They did it. It's still one of my favorite moments. But the fact that Ahmed is here and has this pride and this understanding of these two characters and continues to help form their futures is exciting. And I'm with Molly Damon. I hope to meet Ahmed Best one day after comic comes out and ask him to sign it. I do too. He's sometimes local. He's sometimes local. I have a friend he's a friend with, and I'm always like, I don't know what I would do. I don't know if Ahmed wants this, hear from a bearded 50-year-old Star Wars podcaster. He might be trepidatious. His defenses might go up. But then when I start blubbering and crying and thanking him for maintaining that love of Star Wars and building a character who I think, in a lot of ways, best embodies the idea that in Star Wars storytelling, all of us matter. And sometimes I say the least of us matter, but that's kind of an insult to Jar Jar and Wicket and the rest of the Ewoks. The word least shouldn't be in there. It should just be that all of us matter and all of us have a place in the story. And Jar Jar Binks absolutely represents that to me. So that's why I'm excited for this comic series. But I also want to get into, I got a Rebels hat on. I want to get into conspiracy theory time. Okay. This comic comes out in February. It features Kelloran Beq and Ahmed Best on the cover. I don't like conspiracy theories, folks. In fact, for the last couple of years, my previous YouTube job was a head writer of a channel in which I researched conspiracy theories and debunked them. They're dangerous. They lead you down the wrong path. And don't confuse conspiracy theories with secret plots. But here's the secret plot that I have a conspiracy theory on. I know, one of my favorite Oasis songs, that this means in The Mandalorian Grogu, the tale of Kelloran Beq rescuing Grogu and taking him, as we see, to Naboo adorned staff and going to a friend means that we're going to get it. Means we're going to see it. Means we are going to see Jar Jar Binks on screen again in a theater in 2026 opposite Kelloran Beq. Ahmed Best doing double duty like great theatrical legends before him. I think the chances of this happening just jumped up. I don't know if it jumped up a lot. Maybe I had it at 5%. Maybe it goes to 10%, but that's double. Folks, I think this is a sign. Tinfoil hat on. As LQ says, things that make you go, And now we're doing CNC Music Factory songs here. Taylor wants 10 buzz balls for 10 years of ForceCenter. I think I'll do that. Gaz points out, that friend of a friend is my pal Jamie Stangroom. Jamie has been traveling the world working, so I don't think his YouTube channel is as active anymore, but it still should be up there. The Geekend. Check out Jamie's interviews with Ahmed Best. He and Ahmed started their friendship through the interviews, and it's a warm, respectful friendship that continues to this day. And I still think one of my favorite things ever is Ahmed Best reading the Jar Jar Binks interlude from Chuck Wendig's Aftermath series. I think that's there. Molly says, if true, do you think they should reveal it in a trailer or save it for the film's release? Save it for the film's release. Save it for the film's release. Now, maybe in the trailer, in any trailer that's to come, we got a lot of marketing still to come here. Maybe you reveal Kelloran Beq. Maybe you reveal, because I think if it happens in the story, here's the one thing I'll say. What we know, and we don't know a ton, and we don't have a ton confirmed about what the story of Mandalorian and Grogu is. We know, hey, maybe he's taking bounties for good. Maybe he's working with the New Republic. It's a new kind of adventure, and maybe Rada the Hutt's involved, and maybe Embo's involved, and all these kind of things that we've heard. I think the story of the story, the film, is about going forward into this time period. Anything with Grogu, Kelloran, and any mysterious friend is going to be kind of not just a flashback, but it'd be something obviously from the past. Maybe it's the opening. I still think what we're seeing with the AT-AT sequence, yeah, I said AT-AT, I'm not backing off of it. I think that's the opening to me. That has that kind of, whoa, and now the movie can begin. But I think if we get it early. And I still think we have so many questions to answer about Grogu. That's the thing I have. That's the hope I have, is what happened in season 3 of Mando ends very clearly on some sort of cliffhanger. Ends very clearly as there is more to this story. I don't think there's going to be a Mandalorian season 4. Or maybe there is. I hope. I don't know. If only there was someone in the chat who maybe, has a job and gets a paycheck from Lucasfilm. Maybe they could just drop us a line and tell us. No? Okay, Phil. But there's clearly more to the story. You got a movie. And you have Dave Filoni involved. You have Johnny Favs cooking Cubanos and telling great stories in the theaters. And you have a human being like Ahmed Best, who there's so much more to do with him in Star Wars. I think it's happening. I'm going to put the money down. All right? I'm going to put the money down. And Tamale, to your question, save it for the film's release. The theater will rock. It will shake. Okay? All right? You ever been to a Taylor Swift concert? I haven't. Been to a Lady Gaga concert, but the building kind of shakes. There's an energy in the air. Been to the Rolling Stones in concert. The building kind of SoFi shook, which is mostly because I had that foot-long cheeseburger they offer. But I think if the door opens, if the ramp comes down, and the son of Rick Ollier is there, and Jar Binks shows up, it will be on par with like when a pro wrestler makes a big return, or Don Mattingly hits a home run in the 1995 playoffs. Hold on to the roof and hold on to your hats. Like, it's going to be a roar felt around the galaxy. Yes, David, at SoFi Stadium, when I saw the Rolling Stones, they offered a foot-long cheeseburger. And I'm built for that kind of thing. So anyways, that is my take there. We'll see. We'll see. I got some questions set aside here. It's been a lot of fun. We're not done yet. So if you have a question for me, if you have an idea of how we should how we should celebrate 10th anniversary month of ForceCenter, or you have any questions you want to ask about the 10th anniversary of ForceCenter that I can answer here, or Joseph, Jennifer, and I can answer this month on another episode, let me know. 10-foot-long cheeseburgers for 10 years of ForceCenter. Check out 50 Shades of Tay as well. Great YouTube channel. I've got some interviews up there. In fact, it's spooky season. On Taylor's channel, there is in fact, Tay, drop the link. Be bold. Drop the link to our episode. He interviewed me. We had a conversation about the mid-'80s horror film, the Stephen King adaptation of Silver Bullet, the movie that scared me so much that, one, I peed my pants at a slumber party, and two, never really watch horror films again. Check it out. Will McLean says, did I get it? The foot-long cheeseburger? Will, look at this face. Do I look like a man that will turn away from a foot-long cheeseburger? Do I look like a man that would turn away from like a cheeseburger-flavored pizza? Like the one that you used to offer at California Pizza Kitchen? And I used to get one every Friday night at my old job. I'd eat the whole thing. And then one time I looked at the calorie count and it was over 4,000 calories, just the pizza alone. That was just dinner. Yeah, There you go. Laserbolt says Silver Bullet is way underrated. Brian Ward here. 10 years. I just designed the Force Center logo like last year, right? I know. Yeah, thank you. Big public thank you, actually. That's part of the 10 year. Brian Ward's been on the show. Finally. It took us too long to get him on. Maybe I should sit down with Brian for 10 years of designing ForceCenter. Brian's work has made so many shows out there look professional and look better and just look downright cool. I'm proud to say that ForceCenter was one of the first shows to bring Brian in and pay him actual money, which often some people don't. I'm not going to call out names. But Brian helped elevate our game early on, and I lean on him a lot still. In fact, Brian, I owe you email this week. I have a new logo to create. One more idea that won't work, but ForceCenter has worked, and a large part was Brian helping us make it look professional when we were trying to figure out how best to do it there. I didn't see a link in there. Sometimes links, Taylor can get, try again. I didn't see a link pop up in chat, so I'll try to get in there as well. All right, I got some questions set aside. Poncho Mike says, 10-year celebration idea. You, Joseph and Jennifer, reenacting various Star Wars scenes. I know. Maybe if we had we could, I think David McKay says, have to be a mod. All right, tell you what, while we're doing this, we're producing on the fly here. Taylor, if you email me the link so I can have the direct one, email it to that email address. I'll put it up. I'll make sure it gets into chat right now as I self-produce the show. Molly Damon says, Star Wars rankings, ForceCenter favorite moments edition. Yeah, okay. I love that idea. But you know what? Molly, maybe instead of rankings, maybe we have you interview us for our favorite moments. That's what I suggest. I'm drafting Molly into work she doesn't want. That's what's going on here. You're having too much fun out there hanging out with Jill and everything, Molly. Come on. All right, I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss any of the books. Really excited for the Mandalorian Visual Guide, as I said. Really excited for the Industrial Light and Magic 50 Years of Innovation book as well. There's also more from the Lucasfilm, the LucasArts Museum at New York Comic Con. I'm excited for that as well. Can't wait to get to that. Quick look before I get to more of your questions, and please let some of them come on in here. Brian Ward says, Max Rebo and Palpatine sex math, bring back all the great moments. Absolutely. All right, let me do this. I got some Star Wars news to get to, or Star Wars This Day in History to get to, but I want to make sure I get this link up. This is a solo hosted show. This is what happens when it's not showing up yet. I'll keep waiting for that to pop on up. Sometimes the email and the space-time continuum messes up. All right, I'll keep looking for that link because I want you all to hear it. All right, this week in Star Wars history, 3 kind of interesting dates I wanted to talk about here and get you guys' thoughts on. October 13th, 2014, Star Wars Rebels full series debuts with Droids in Distress. This followed, of course, the Spark of Rebellion 1-hour special that launched it all. And I cannot believe that we are, past 11 years on that? That is absolutely insane to me. I still think, Molly says, be careful what you wish for. I'll make it a drinking game. Fair enough. Taylor, check the email. It's not coming through, so make sure I have the morning drive email up. So make sure it's the right one. I'm trying to see. Unless it went into spam, because there it is. Got it. It popped up. Never mind. Got to get that there, and then we're gonna share, and then we're gonna copy. Sorry, everybody, for the audio listeners. It'll all work out. All right, here we go. This is a link to this great episode I just did about Silver Bullet, the movie that scared me into peeing on myself as a youngster. So there you go. Link is up. Thank you for sending that over and being patient with me Appreciate that, Taylor. All right. The legacy of Star Wars Rebels continues to grow for me, and I'm a big fan of the series. And I've talked openly about my journey with it, where in October of 2014 on Jedi Alliance, Maude Garrett and I are excited to review it, but the first book had come out, the New Dawn, Jonathan Jackson Miller, which I want to give a reread to. I remember at the time it didn't grab me. I liked parts of it. And of course, it gave us Ray Sloan. It gave us, Kanan and Hera. And we got to meet everyone, but Count Vidian, I just wasn't sure what it was. I think it probably works more now in retrospect than I gave it credit for. And Rebels marks this interesting growth point for me as a Star Wars fan, as a, dare I say, older Star Wars fan in 2014. Where it wasn't my expectations being met, where I was like, hey, this is the formation of the rebellion. Where are some of the characters I know? We got the droids, but I don't know these characters. And now we got more Jedi and all these kind of questions, which I think are valid and can be valid as a fan. And they're okay to have those questions. Star Wars is big enough for your questions, I think. It can take your questions. It can take your doubt. It can take you not liking everything it puts out. It's big enough. It's not going anywhere. But by the end of the season, the show had grown, not just grown on me. I think I grew into the show. And it is still one of my favorite things to show up at conventions or have conversations with folks out in the wild and just see their love for Star Wars Rebels. I think more than anything else produced in this modern era. There's such passion for the sequel films. There's clearly passion for Andor. There was a lot of passion for The Mandalorian, and I think there will be again. There's been a lot of passion and love for everything to come out. The High Republic, the love for the High Republic is still absolutely wonderful to experience when you're around those who love it. But I cannot tell you how many times I've just been actually moved to be at conventions, to meet fans who, of all ages, by the way, that have been pulled into Star Wars or pulled back into Star Wars because of Star Wars Rebels. I absolutely love celebrating any anniversaries of the show. And that happened October 13th, 2014. What are some of your memories of the beginning of Star Wars Rebels? Post them here if you're watching on YouTube, or a little bit later on. Leave a comment if you're listening. Get into our Discord. Post the memories there too. Important anniversary, October 14th, 1997, Lucasfilm Awards, Hasbro and Galoob, one of my favorite toy company names ever, Galoob, the merch and licensing rights, to the Star Wars prequel toys. This was huge because we have Power of the Force 2 come out in 95. Star Wars toys were back, baby. But we had those new films coming out. We had episode 1, 2, and 3. And toys, wow, we were anticipating what was about to happen. And this is a big day in Star Wars history, I think, because it kind of, and I know again what would happen in 1999, and maybe people not taking to the films as much as we would have hoped as Star Wars fans. But the toys, man, still brought people out. And it was also the first of this era. And I don't know, this is not good, but it's not bad, but it's just the reality of, by this point, by 1995, when Power of the Force comes back out, there's a lot of, and I was one of them. I would be in my screenwriting and film production classes at Allen Hancock Community College in Santa Maria, California. And I would look over at my friend Joel, and we'd be like, do we want to sit and work on our short film? Maybe learn the craft of screenwriting? Or do we want to go across the street to the Toys R Us at Santa Maria, California, and go get some more Star Wars toys? And we would leave school to go get some more Star Wars toys. So Power of the Force figures ended my filmmaking career before it even began. But there's a lot of nostalgia in that. There's a lot of us like, we get to do this again. But I think it was always going to be different. The Kenner line, the original Kenner line and the original go-around up until 85 established something. It was new then. It was this new, wow, toys are reaching a new level. And we have the explosion, and I'm an 80s kid, and I got all my 80s toys. And it all kind of fades away. Some kind of continues or trickles on. And then we kind of get where we are now. Now it's an adult collecting business. But I think that 97 to 99 range, and I think by the time we get to the prequels, it was never going to be the same. And so that's why you get a lot of mass production. That's why you get a lot of silly toys. You get a lot of candies with Jar Jar's tongue that maybe we didn't want. We get a lot of that. So it's always going to be different. It's never going to be 1977 again where this, wow, surprise, we got these new things. And that happens. Saturday Night Live's like that. 50 years of Saturday Night Live. If you join the cast now, you're always going to be doing what they did before. You can break through, you can bring your own creativity, but you're never going to be the originals. And that, I think, still holds true for Star Wars, even though some things have, I think, superseded some of the Star Wars that came before it in some ways. And you have conversations with folks, 4, 5, and 6 don't really hold up for me. You know, I was negative 13 when those movies came out. I was negative 40 when those movies came out. You're always going to have that. But it's always going forward, and what was new and groundbreaking becomes the standard. And I think that was the truth of Star Wars toys in the 90s, in the early 2000s. It was a weird, fascinating time. It was not the golden age of the early 80s, but I love this part of Star Wars history, that the toys were going to continue. Laserbolt, who would know? Because Laserbolt, when the first Kenner line came out, Laserbolt was 49 years old. Kenner was the last time the Star Wars toys were actually still toys. I do kind of agree with that there from a certain point of view. All right, final this week in Star Wars history moment. It's an animation heavy week. October 17th, 2008, the Clone Wars episode Destroy Malevolence airs on Cartoon Network. This is early on. This is kind of what I think got people into the series, and I am one of those folks. As I've said before, I did not see the Clone Wars movie in theaters in August of 2008. I remember seeing the I remember seeing the trailers. I remember seeing behind the scenes stuff. That was the first time that I saw this guy in a cowboy hat named Dave Filoni. I had some friends who had worked with him at Cartoon Network, knew him down the hall. You know, they were working at SpongeBob. He was working on Last Airbender. I didn't know the guy, but it was like, oh, this is this new guy. This is the first time. But I didn't see the movie. I just wasn't sure what was going to happen. Joseph Scrimshaw has shared his story of seeing it and not really known as well. I now love the movie with all my heart. I think much like Book of Boba Fett, it is wonky at times. It's trying to do things that maybe it shouldn't have, but it's got a great story. It sets up a great series, and it gives us goddamn Rada the Hutt. And I think Rada the Hutt has a big place in the Star Wars story. The son of Jabba should have some thoughts on what's going on in the Star Wars story, especially in the underworld. Michael says Clone Wars came out when I was in middle school. It really reignited a whole era and generation, and it did. Talk about my love of entry points into Star Wars, to talk about it often. And you got the prequel kids. You got the special edition kids. My friend Billy Patterson is a special edition kid. Maude Garrett was a special edition kid. You got the prequel generation. You got people who came on board, and not necessarily just young folks, but you got people that came on board with Force Awakens. I know someone who had never seen Star Wars and saw The Last Jedi because it was a thing to do on a weekend, and everyone was talking about it, and that brought them into Star Wars there. So that's always going to be. Entry points are valuable. We're going to have young Jedi adventure generation of fans who were like 3, and I remember watching them. I think my favorite, I think the forgotten generation in terms of Star Wars fans, is the Clone Wars generation. These are the kids or the young folks or even the adults who sat down in 2008, who then sat down in, once the series launches and is full in, 2008, 9, and 10, and got pulled in by the Clone Wars. I think it's a fascinating perspective on the Star Wars story. And the Malevolence arc, the 3-episode arc, is the thing that made me kind of sit up in my seat and say, oh, okay, maybe something's going on here that I should pay attention to. And I got to give him credit. We're sometimes at odds over our view over Star Wars. We see things differently, but my old pal Christian Harloff, at the time we were doing comedy, doing stand-up together, and he was like, yeah, I think you got to check out this Clone Wars series. And I was like, I don't know. The movie looked a little different. I don't know. He goes, no, there's this line, there's this ship, the Malevolence. I think you'll like it. God damn it, he was right. Perhaps one of the only times we've agreed on Star Wars. I tuned in. I caught those on replay or whatever it was because you couldn't get them on demand, and absolutely loved it and been a fan of the series ever. Joel doesn't like the Clone Wars generation. Says it's ruining Star Wars, especially Filoni's influence franchise. No, I don't agree with you on that. I think Dave knows what he's doing. I don't think he's a good live action director, and I hope that improves. I think some of his writing for live action is a little weak. I think he needed folks like Henry Gilroy to prop him up during Clone Wars, but I think he's got a handle on it. I like where we get with it, especially on the animation side, and his ability to allow people to continue to tell stories in that. But I think I think that generation's just overlooked. I'm from Gen X, which is the overlooked generation, we have this shorter window than the rest. Our influence, though it seems strong, there's not a lot of Gen X politicians. Everything we're kind of skipped over in a lot of ways. Meant in charge of Star Wars, not running Star Wars. Got it. I feel you, Joel. Thank you for the super chat to clarify that there. I spell things wrong all the time, Joel. No judgment here. But I'm fascinated with that Clone Wars generation and love listening to how that series brought them in, because I think they're open to a lot of other things that the generations before weren't. And we should learn from that. So that's this week in Star Wars history. I'm almost out of here. Thanks for hanging with me on the solo episode, but I do have some other super chat questions to get to. Again, thank you for the Joel. Always appreciate your thoughts here. Nick84 says, happy Monday, y'all. Recently watched Skeleton Crew, and I got to say, the emergency hold demolition button really hits differently these days. Yeah, it does. It does. Also, just rewatching Skeleton Crew recently. Such a well put together series too, where you get so much out of it because you know it's coming, and you're so happy for the characters to go on the journey. But you also, even have more worry, and you're screaming at the screen. Don't trust Jod. You're right to not trust Jod. I hope we get more Skeleton Crew. Thank you, Nick, for that observation and that question. Joel. Okay, Joel says, I think Dave should be allowed to do whatever he wants. Okay, clarified. Gaz saying, I took my daughter to cinema to see Force Awakens when she was 5, then Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo, and The Rise of Skywalker. She's in the 15. Is still a huge fan of all the series and movies. Star Wars has bonded us, and that's also part of the joy of Star Wars getting to continue. I think even if nothing new had ever come out, the sale doesn't happen, Star Wars kind of is this thing that's locked away. It would still continue to reward generations to come and bond friends and families and strangers too. I've got my Rebel insignia hat on today, and I showed the pictures earlier of me and my old pal Madeline Rue. There's me wearing my old Imperial insignia hat. Actually, those are two different hats. One's a 59 era hat, which is too big for my head. And the other one's a 39. You got to get the 39 era, kids. Know the right baseball cap to wear for your head. But anyways, I used to wear that Imperial insignia one, and it was a conversation starter, and that's changed. And I've talked about that and dressed, and I just don't want to be associated with space fascists anymore at all. Despite them having the cooler toys, I get it. But I absolutely love wearing this hat in public, and it sparking positive, good, connective conversations with Star Wars fans out there. Michael asks, what's my favorite Art of Star Wars book? I think Force Awakens, and I think then I'd go with Solo. Only I'm just such a stand for the Solo film, and I love everything. I love exploring the love. I love exploring the love that went into. I enjoy I have an old friend who's a copy editor. He'd be like, use a different word. I enjoy exploring the love that went into making Solo from all parties involved. I've been publicly a little grumpy about Lord Miller in the past. I think there's a lot of things that the public will never be privy to, but they brought a lot of love to the production, without a doubt, and they're creative professionals and everyone involved. So I think the art of book reflects that. But I still go to the Force Awakens one because of what I said earlier. It wasn't just that Star Wars was back. It wasn't that, hey, we got a new Star Wars film, and we got toys, and we got series, and we got books. That was great. That was fun. And it was big business, and Disney had bought it, and it's this IP that they want to, mine and make money from. Absolutely, for better or worse. But when the art of books came out, particularly the Force Awakens one, it was, like I said earlier, a testament to the imagination that went into that film, but also just the franchise, past, present, and future. And I just remember flipping every page, and you're learning things. Oh, they were supposed to go down to the Death Star remains were underwater. And obviously you see where that kind of goes on some things, and that's kind of part of the fun too, right? Right? That's kind of the Star Wars lore. That's kind of the Lucasfilm lore. Even over in Indiana Jones. Well, the little cart ride from Temple of Doom was originally supposed to be in Raiders, but they cut the sequence in there. That's how filmmaking goes, right? And that's how creativity goes. What didn't work here becomes something else. I have jokes that started as bad jokes that didn't quite work, and I'll take a line or two from that bit, and it shows up in somewhere else, and it works better. And the Art of Force Awakens book touched on that creativity, touched on that process, and that actually was really felt like now I'm actually really home. We don't just got a Star Wars film and marketing. We've got this entire experience back. So I go to that there as well. All right. Any other questions? Any questions that I missed because I was by myself today, let me know. Laserbolt says, I got The Art of Solo at Celebration Chicago. It's one of my favorites. There's a lot of stuff that didn't make it into the movie. Yeah, and Celebration Chicago was where I met Laserbolt. So he claims. I do remember a tall man in an X-Wing. What X-Wing? Not an X-Wing, like an X-Wing outfit. By the way, plug for Laserbolt. Check out Laserbolt's channel, Laserbolt Videos, and his Friday Night Flights. If you just want to relax as you start your weekend or even watch it on replay, you all should subscribe to Laserbolt's channel. He does flight simulator content, and I think it's wonderful. Robin from NYC checking in said, I need more live-action Kira in Star Wars. I absolutely agree. It's not just because I have an unabashed crush on Emilia Clarke. That's been well documented, including in my stand-up act, but also I think she's damn great. And I think Kira as a character, there's still so much to explore, and that comes out of one of the realities of the production. She is a character there to serve Han Solo. All the characters in that movie were there to serve the title character, and so that did mean we got cheated on some, or we didn't get to spend as much time with others. I don't hold that against the film as much as maybe others do, but I get it. But Kira has so many layers, and dear God, I hope we get to explore it. And we do get to explore it in other avenues. I love working for in Star Wars Outlaws. That's my highest honor in that game is for Crimson Dawn. But I do hope so too. Mike also says the Rogue One art book is really dope as well. It is. Gaz says, Ken, for the 10-year celebration, would you consider doing a one-off special edition Databank Brawl with returning guest Mike Black, perhaps with Brian Ward animating again? I mean, we'd have to, we'll have to check with Brian's schedule and see what we can pay him. By the way, he did the first Databank Brawl animated one. Check it out here on the YouTube channel. Please dig it up. Maybe I'll post a link here. Let me try to do that right now. Brian Ward did that out of the love of his in his heart for that episode. Now, Mike Black, I see Mike Black all the time over at the Comedy Store, and it's been a long time. We at one point stopped. I'm not saying stopped doing guests. I mean, we have them on from time to time whenever I can con Alex and Molly into stopping into the show. We enjoy that, but. After a while, I think pandemic and it's even though it's kind of easier to bring in guests via StreamYard and everything like that, it just at one point it almost kind of became harder, and we kind of pulled off doing it. And it's a shame because we had so many wonderful guests early on and who were regulars, and Mike Black, a leader and legend among them there. I'm going to drop this here because it's some of Brian Ward's best work, I think. And that's saying something because he continues to put out wonderful work. But there's the link. If you guys have never gone back and seen the animated version of the Gus Tours episode of Databank Brawl, Gus Tours versus Constable Zuvio, check it out there. Databank Brawl is being rebroadcast on Sundays, and it's fun to go through the episodes and just, the guests that were there, Hector Navarro and Emma Fife and Ash Crossan and Audrey Kearns, Mike Black, of course, Matt Belknap, so many wonderful folks on there. So check out those there. All right, any other questions? This is it. My voice is starting to crack. Thank you for hanging with me on this solo edition of Star Wars News. A lot of fun. Like I said, we're going to try to get another episode out as we maybe look back at the 10 years of Star Wars, ForceCenter covering Star Wars. Trying to get some time with Jen Landa this week to do it. Joseph should return the show in about 2 weeks. But on Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, we'll go live again, but we'll take your calls and, in fact, your lovely faces if you're camera ready. We had a lot of fun doing that recently. So that is it. I think that's it. I think that's all my voice can take. And my chihuahua wants to go outside. So these are the things that dominate shows. You know where to find us. Links down below if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a comment. Leave a like. Tell us if you're watching later. Follow me at Ken Napzok. Check out my show, The Blathering Live. We have a lot of fun. See you next time. Dedicating this to David Mackay. Bye!